That's how into it he was.
Did they
It's
air
all
that?
he cared about.
They should?
No, they didn't air that.
Oh,
They
that'd
didn't
be
air that.
sick.
It was just us shooting birds and eating them. It was really fun. It was
Yeah.
a really fun experience. He was a fucking fascinating guy.
When I always watch if it's on the plane, his documentary Roadrunner that they made, I think after he passed away, and it was amazing. He said something once where he was like, because sometimes I think about this. When you get a little older, even though we're not super old, but you start to think like, hey, are my best years behind me? Like what is life? What's the next things? And I heard him say, he was like, he only became famous or like people knew his name and read his book when he was 43 years old. He said, so I was sitting there at 42 years old thinking, all my fun, all my drug days, all my wild, it's all over. I'm in the back half of my life now, and this is what life's going to be. He goes, and I didn't realize that it was going to be the next 20 years of my life that would be me, be like the best years of my life. And I never heard someone talk about it that way, where it was like, I know we know that you never know what tomorrow holds, or our whole lives can change in an instant. But sometimes, I can't help but feel like, I'm coming into my 40s now. But when I heard Bourdain, I was like, oh, that's a very hopeful that's a very hopeful thing.
There's no roadmap for everybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes the more interesting people are the people that lived their entire lives never thinking they were going to be famous and then became famous. Like Jordan Peterson is a great example of that. He was a professor, just it was opposed to this bill that would cause people to have to be mandated to use a bunch of made-up gender pronouns. And he's like, this is crazy. You can't allow this. This is just going to spiral and just going to snowball into something else. So he becomes famous in his 40s, which is a very difficult thing for people to deal with.
Almost impossible.
It's possible.
Morgan Freeman is the only other one, and Rodney Dangerfield are the only other two big names that I know.
Rodney's a big one, right?
Yeah.
Rodney was a aluminum siding salesman.
Wild.
Yeah, and he never stopped writing, apparently. He was always writing jokes during that time, but he'd quit doing comedy and just went back to regular life, and then said, fuck it, I'm going back in.
Right.
And then, Back to School and all those movies. I mean, Rodney was huge. It's crazy that, how many people are like that out there that could have made it and just didn't?